Hello and welcome back to the GB Fantasy Football channel. In today's video, we're going to be looking at a wildcard for Game Week 6 on Fantasy Premier League. Yes, it seems to be the week of the chips, whether it's triple captain or wildcard. It seems like this will be finally the first time for a few of us to activate it and just go into the season, hopefully with a little bit of a boost, depending on how poorly or how well you've started. Now, without me going any further, I'd like to thank you all for the support on the channel. The Sun Dream Team videos are doing exceptionally well. If we can hit 50 likes on this video, that would be greatly appreciated. And don't forget to drop a subscribe on the channel whilst you're down there as well. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss an upload in the future. And without further ado, let's crack on with the video. For dramatic effect, I will be breaking this team down in goalkeeper, defender, midfielder, attack, and the substitution bench. We'll also look at how the team lines up in Game Week 7 and Game Week 8, because of course a wildcard isn't just for a 1 week punt, it is to set our teams up for the best possible way going into the next few game weeks at least, potentially targeting a wildcard in the second half of the season. Of course, this season is slightly different with a second lot of chips from Game Weeks 1 to 19. Now, this wildcard will be slightly different to the template teams that you're seeing across YouTube as it is. Now, there's been a bit of injury news that's slightly moulded the way that I want to look at things. Of course, you would have seen a double Arsenal defence, you would have seen the same template front three, you would have seen the same midfield four. A few different ones in this draft, not too vast, it's not breaking the template massively, but a few differentials that might be the big difference maker between a few points, saving money elsewhere, and potentially investing those funds into a different player. Now, starting off with the defence, as you can see on the screen, we've got Nick Pope in goal, Dan Burn, Senesi, and Gabriel of Arsenal. Now, one thing I will say with regards to this draft, Game Week 6 is not the ideal time to be wildcarding. Game Week 7 onwards, this team looks really, really good, but for Game Week 6, it leaves a lot to be desired. There's lots of people playing against each other, there's lots of teams clashing, but from Game Week 7 onwards, this draft really does look solid. When we get to the bench in a little while, I could tell you how potentially this draft could change with regards to someone dropping into the bench and maybe changing it up a little bit. But the back four, Gabriel, Senesi, Burn, and Pope. Now, I've gone for the double Newcastle defence. This might be a little bit reactionary, but on other fantasy games, I have got Newcastle assets in. And I feel like they're being overlooked massively on FPL at the minute. 3 clean sheets away from home in a row, 3-0 draws, and this was after 7 changes at the weekend, going to a Bournemouth team that are very free-flowing, very good for goal scoring, and very fluent in attack. Newcastle stifled them. Bournemouth really didn't have a chance. A few years ago, Newcastle did this exceptionally well. I forgot what season it was exactly. I think it was the campaign where Trippier really shone when he started at about 5 million. But for Burn and Pope, you're looking at about 10 million between them in value. And people are going for the double Arsenal defence, which I completely agree with. Arsenal's defence from Game Week 7 onwards is going to look fantastic. However, when you break it down, you could get Burn and Pope for about 10 million and Gabriel and Raya for 11.6. Now, 1.6 million difference between the two is massive. Of course, Dan Burn, he won't have DEFCON points. He might pick them up occasionally, but that's not why we're getting him in. Gabriel has been picking up DEFCON points along the way, but that's not why people are getting him in. He's being brought into the team because he's part of a very solid Arsenal defence that is constantly changing. At fullbacks, you've got Timber, you've got Calafiori. You can't really nail the colours to the mast with regards to them playing every week. Timber more than Calafiori, he will get more minutes. So Gabriel, Saliba and Raya are the only real nailed assets in that Arsenal back 4/5 if you want to include the goalkeeper. But I think for 11.6 million with no DEFCON points and Raya at 5.5 million, where really you're only hoping for 6, maybe 7 points at most per game, is that what you're after? Is that the absolute pinnacle of the defence where we can get the most and maximise our value from price to point? I'm not too sure. Pope at 5 million, he'll pick you up a few save points, he'll get 3-4 points occasionally, even without a clean sheet. And I think the Newcastle fixtures going forward are really, they're okay. You've got Arsenal at home this week, which is knocking them down the fixture ticker substantially. You've got Nottingham Forest at home the following week. Bearing in mind, Forest will be coming off the back of a European tie, so you'd expect a lot of rotation in that one. With Newcastle picking up clean sheets away from home and potentially the St James's Park effect, playing at home, I think there'll be more clean sheets on the way as well. Brighton away, Fulham at home, West Ham away. which is red on the fixture ticker for some reason. I'm not too sure on that one. And then Brentford away. I think they are a very decent bunch of 6 fixtures for Newcastle. Of course, Senesi, you would have seen him in a lot of drafts going forward. DEFCON points, I think he's hit them in 100% of fixtures this season, which is a rarity. And 4.6, 4.7 million, depending on his price currently, is due to go up before the Saturday deadline. I think he'd be nailed on in most drafts, and I didn't see the point of changing the template too much. Get him in. Leeds away this week. Decent set of fixtures for Bournemouth going forward. Nothing too major. Can you keep them? Yes. Will they do incredibly well points wise? It seems like Bournemouth have got a pretty decent squad going forward. Defensive wise, Leeds away, Fulham at home, Crystal Palace away, Nottingham Forest at home, and then the fixtures get slightly difficult. But that's where we've got someone on the bench who could potentially rotate in with him. But that's the defence and goalkeeper. Leave a comment down below on what you think of the selection. On to the midfield 4, and we have a rogue shout knocking around in there from Arsenal, but we'll get to him in a little minute. Anton Semenyo, I don't think much needs to be said with regards to him. We just spoke about Bournemouth's fixtures. They're really good going forward. He's a player who's taking lots of shots, and Bournemouth's attacking talent with Evan Nielsen, you've got Clivert coming back into the team, and Semenyo, of course, in that fold. He's on penalties. Will he keep them? I'm not too sure, but he definitely has that trick up his sleeve, more avenues to points. And I think he's already risen from, what was it, 7 million to about 7.7 million in the first 5 weeks. Already risen this week 0.1, and I think he will rise again another 0.1 before the Saturday deadline. I think a lot of you would have already had him in, and for those of you who don't, you're probably looking at a way to get him into your squads. Stack at Leeds, little bit reactionary, but he does rotate quite well with an option on the bench, similar to another player in this midfield. Picked up the goal, picked up the assist at the weekend, I believe. I'm not offering and not asking too much from this 5 million slot. Of course, you can go for someone like a Keenan Dewsbury Hall, potentially even getting somebody else in here at the 5.5 million price range. But I think for 5 million, the potential for DEFCON points, the odd attacking return, you can't ask for too much more from a budget enabling midfielder. Iliman Ndiaye, DEFCON monster apparently, averaging 10.9 DEFCONs per game. Really good asset. Got the assist at the weekend away to Liverpool and is looking really lively in that Everton attack. As you well, he plays as part of that front 3 behind either Beto or Barry. So he's a big danger. I'd go for Ndiaye over Grealish for those DEFCON potential points. And Bukayo Saka. Now, we've got the news today that Noni Madueke will be out for up to 6 to 8 weeks. Saka is just coming back from injury, but I can see him playing an awful lot of minutes. He won't play in the Carabao Cup 3rd round game, but going forward, we know what Mikel Arteta is like with Saka. The only problem is if he breaks down injury-wise again, what sort of layoff you're going to be looking at. But instead of the double Arsenal defence, little spoiler alert, we've gone for a double Arsenal attack in this one. Yes, they've not been free-flowing up front, but I see Saka with more avenues to points in a certain centre forward that a lot of people are picking on template. He is in this draft, spoiler alert, but we'll get to him in a little while. Arsenal's fixtures, Newcastle away, West Ham at home, which is a very targetable fixture at the minute. Fulham away, trickier tie, followed by Crystal Palace at home, Burnley away, and Sunderland away. We've seen Saka in previous seasons. If Arsenal keep up their clean sheet potential, you'd say Saka finishes the game on 3 points with that extra clean sheet point. We don't know if he's not lost penalties yet. We think Gyökeres might have them, but that's not a guarantee. Gyökeres scored his penalty when Saka wasn't on the pitch. So I will be intrigued to see the first time Arsenal win one with both of them on the pitch. But that's the midfield 4. Leave a comment down below on if you think Saka's a good option or if it's a wait and see with regards to his injury front and seeing if he is going to come back into the Arsenal team straight away and hit the ground running. Template front 3. Yes, it hasn't changed even in this draft. Even in a draft where I've slightly gone differently across the board, the template front 3 still stays intact. There's lots of other options, but I don't think they're quite as good as these 3. Erling Haaland, do I need to say any more? The man's amassed more expected goals than half the league put together, so he showed at the weekend, either against the best defence in the league, he can still cause problems. Of course, he picked up his 9-pointer, I believe it was, against Arsenal, getting the goal, max bonus points. We're Burnley at home this week. Can you ask for much more from a Man City asset? Brentford away, Everton at home, Villa away, which is a red fixture on the ticker. I wouldn't have that at all. Bournemouth at home, and then a very difficult fixture at home to Liverpool. I think Haaland, if you haven't got him in your team, a lot of people are looking at ways to get him into their teams, I should say. Whether it's a wild card this week, whether it's a triple captain, I think Erling Haaland it will be the best captaincy shout for game week 6. João Pedro, with potentially Palmer out for a little while, injury wise. Then you've got other players such as Liam Delap, injury wise, out for Chelsea for a little while. I think Pedro's minutes are quite fixed. Maresca did say he picked up a slight knock, similar to Erling Haaland as well with Guardiola. He said that he's just a bit fatigued. I see Haaland starting at the weekend against Burnley. It's just Guardiola talk. You won't see him in the Carabao Cup third round game away to Huddersfield, but he'll play at the weekend. João Pedro, he might have picked up a knock away to Man United. He's still going to play. Their options are very slim on the ground. I think it's Mork Guéhi from Sunderland, who they recalled, yet to be really in any of the Chelsea squads. You've got the young lad George, who can play up front, but I think João Pedro, it showed even against Man United last week, he stayed on the pitch where others were taken off. So there's a lot of responsibility and a lot of trust that's put into João Pedro. He will be on penalties, I think. According to some Chelsea fans, they do think he will be on penalties, even ahead of Enzo Fernandez, who took the last one when they was both on the pitch. So that is one to note. And the final attacker is Victor Gyökeres. Didn't score away to Man United, didn't score at home to Man City, and didn't score away to Liverpool, but scored at home to Nottingham Forest and Leeds. Now, you might call him a flat track bully, and if that's what he is, you look at the Arsenal fixtures, that's exactly what you need coming up. Kai Havertz is still going to be out for a little while. He's going to play the minutes. He might get brought off at 70, 75 minutes just to protect him. Maybe Trossard will go up front. But to me, Gyökeres, if you have Saka and Gyökeres, you're covering off the penalty potential for Arsenal. Attacking wise, I think they're going to score a few goals. I think once it starts clicking into gear, they're going to score 1, 2, 3 goals a game, which is what you're asking for, especially from these type of players. I just see slightly more value in these two. If you're going to pick between Gyökeres and Saka, I think Gyökeres just edges it. But in this one, with a double Arsenal attack, I don't see any reason not to go for these two. The left-hand side, there's going to be a lot of rotation with Martinelli and Eze and Trossard over there. You're going to have Declan Rice and Mikel Moreno as the other number 8 role, and maybe even Eze, Odegaard and Wary for that number 10 role behind the centre forward. So for Saka and Gyökeres, I think they're going to be nailed for minutes, providing Saka doesn't break down, that is. And with the fixtures coming up, I can see Gyökeres doing really well. And finally, moving on to the bench for this Game Week 6 wildcard draft, we've got Martin Dubravka as the backup goalkeeper. Many of you would have started with him at the start of the season. 4 million in price, one of the very few starting goalkeepers. Although we do need to keep an eye on Carl Darlow, that is, at Leeds. Perry has got an injury. We're not sure how big of an injury that is, but if Carl Darlow is the starting goalkeeper for Leeds, that does open up another avenue. Burnley have looked okay defensively at home, but overall they've been really poor. Jadon Anthony, our midfield option at 5.5 million. Now we'll get on to how this team looks in Game Week 7 and Game Week 8 in just a little bit, but he rotates really well with a few options that are starting in midfield. 3 goals and an assist in the first 5 games so far. I think he slipped under the radar a little bit with so many DEFCON monsters in midfield. He's an old-fashioned FPL pick. He's picking up the goals. He's picking up the attacking contributions that we normally would look for. It's just that in a season of change, he's slightly slipped under the radar. And I think because he's playing for a promoted side, yes, the attacking returns are coming. I don't know why he's not in more drafts. Maybe that 0.5 million saving on other potential midfield options could be the way forward if you want to branch out in other places and upgrade other options. We've got Alderete, the Sunderland defender. Between him and Mukiele, I've probably just gone him slightly more for the DEFCON. Mukiele could, of course, shift over to right back with injuries and everything that Sunderland have got going on at the back at the minute. Of course, Dan Ballard's just come back into the team. That sending off really didn't help him at the weekend. And I think Alderete, for 4 million, provides a good option. And then you've got Joachim Andersen, the DEFCON monster himself. It's one of them ones where for 4.5 million, if he's starting on 4 points a game, can you ask for much more than that? I think Fulham have only kept 1 clean sheet out the first 5 so far, so that's not ideal. But if he's still scoring 4 points a game, maybe even starting with 3 points a game, can we really ask for too much more from a 4.5 million defender? with this draft, maybe you could bump him down to a 4 million defender. Maybe you could go for someone like an Esteve, take that 0.5. And the good thing about this draft as well is, according to Live FPL, sorry, FPL.team that is, there's still 0.9 million in the bank for this one. Of course, my team value might be slightly more than yours. You might slightly have more than me, which is more than likely because I haven't got Haaland or Semenyo in my team currently. So with 0.9 million in the bank still, you could take Anderson and bump him up to a 5.4, maybe even, I don't know, close to a 6 million centre back or defender in total if you want to bump down Anthony to another 5 million midfielder. With the 0.9 million in the bank, it offers a lot of flexibility. Maybe bumping up a defender from a 5 million to a 5.5, or maybe even taking a stack in midfield and getting him closer to a £6.5 million midfielder. But that's my Game Week 6 draft and how it's lining up for Game Week 6 itself. Let's see how it looks in Game Week 7. As you can see from the team on the screen, from Game Week 7 onwards, the team does look really nice. Pope in goal, Forest at home, Dan Burn also with Forest at home, that double Newcastle defence looking very good. Senesi with Fulham at home, a very favourable fixture. And Gabriel at home to West Ham, a team that is struggling with set pieces and seem to concede a corner every game. Gabriel's yet to get his customary bullet header from a corner, but I don't see any reason why this can't be his first one in that game. And if rumours are to be true, that will be Graham Potter's last game in charge before they switch to Nuno Espirito Santo during the international break. Illumin and Dye at home to Palace, a tricky fixture, but they will also be coming off a European tie midweek, that is. Saka at home to West Ham, as we just spoke about, a very good fixture. West Ham looking poor defensively. Semenyo at home to Fulham, Stack at home to Tottenham, Gyökeres at home to West Ham. João Pedro, a tricky fixture at home to Liverpool, but you can still see Chelsea scoring in that one. And Erling Haaland away to Brentford. But as you can see on the bench, it's still looking strong for Game Week 7. You've got Joachim Anderson away to Bournemouth. Not ideal defensive-wise, but you can see him picking up DEFCON points. Jadon Anthony away to Villa. Villa have been really poor this season, and I wouldn't classify that as a red fixture by any stretch of the imagination. Could you play him in this one instead of someone like Stack in midfield? I think so. And for someone like a Dubravka, Villa away, you're not going to play him over Pope, but it's a nice option. Alderete away to Man United. You'd hope he gets DEFCON points. Can you see Man United scoring in that one? I actually can, so for that reason he'll stay on the bench for this week alone. Man United have created a lot of chances. In fact, I think they've made and created the most shots out of any team in the league so far, which is a surprising stat because I didn't expect that one bit. But they're clearly slowly clicking into gear. That's how the team lines up for Game Week 7. Let's move on to Game Week 8. And finally, moving on to how the team looks in Game Week 8. There's lots of good potential point scorers in this one. We've got Pope in goal away to Brighton. A back three starting in this fixture of Gabriel away to Fulham. Probably going to be a very difficult tie for Arsenal, but you can see, you can potentially see a clean sheet with the way that they've been defending this season. Only 2 goals conceded in the first 5 games, and that was against Manchester City and Liverpool. Senesi away to Palace, a tricky fixture, but you'd expect DEFCON points in that one if he's going to keep up his 100% ratio so far. And this is where the Sunderland defender comes into his own. Alderete in Game Week 8 at home to Wolves, a very favourable fixture. The way Sunderland defended with 10 men against Villa at the weekend showed exactly what kind of sturdy and stable back line they've got under their new manager. Well, under their manager, I should say. And Sunderland, they invested well in the summer. And the back four just looks strong. You can see him keeping a clean sheet in this one. Yes, Strand Larson might be back into the Wolves team by then, but Wolves are a mess. And I actually think Sunderland are a better team than Wolves this season by quite a substantial distance. The midfield four, Bukayo Saka away to Fulham. Not the easiest of fixtures, but you can still see Arsenal scoring in there, which is exactly what we're looking for. Of course, we're doubling off on that penalty taking potential. Saka, maybe a clean sheet point in there. Semenyo away to Palace, one of his trickier fixtures going forward. Palace, as we're speaking now, still yet to play Liverpool at the weekend, still unbeaten in about 17 games overall. Fantastic run. But with Europe coming into the equation, it might be a tricky one. Burnley at home to Leeds. Jadon Anthony, a very good fixture in this one for him. Can you see him scoring? Absolutely. He's looked lively in the first 5 fixtures so far this season. And Leeds, despite them being fairly good at the back, Burnley at home at Turf Moor, it's quite fortress for them. And Stack away to Burnley. Yes, we do have a fixture clash in midfield, but with Stack, you're hoping for DEFCON points. And also, you do have a potential different player on the bench that you could start if you wanted to. And that's Iliman Ndiaye away to Manchester City. You'd probably have Ndiaye down to get DEFCON points in that one. Maybe an attacking return, but Man City at the Etihad, they're more of a it's more of a fortress for them, and you'd expect them to potentially keep a clean sheet in that one. So for that reason, I've gone Stack in midfield. Then your front three, Erling Haaland, that is, at home to Everton. Once again, you're probably going to stick the captaincy on him. Everton, they are good defensively, but Man City at the Etihad, you'd always back them to score at least 2 goals a game, and for that reason, yes, you don't see why not. João Pedro away to Forest. Of course, this isn't the Forest from last season. This is a Ange Postecoglou Forest that will also be in Europe. Maybe a lot of rotation. They've got a few injuries at the back. Maybe things will change after the international break. But I could see Chelsea playing in that one really well. Maybe they'll have Cole Palmer back by then. Maybe João Pedro will have more license to attack rather than playing in a striking role that he's not really made for. He's more of a number 10. I can see him scoring in that one. And of course, Victor Gyökeres away to Fulham in this one. Similar to Saka, not the easiest of fixtures at Craven Cottage. Arsenal, they will score goals. And if they do score goals, yes, Martinelli did get the goal at the weekend against Manchester City. But normally the output from that attacking line, I'd suggest, would come from Saka or Gyökeres. On the bench for this one, Dubravka at home to Leeds. There's an argument to start him ahead of Pope. Brighton, they will score goals in most home fixtures this season, but with Leeds drawing 0-0, Newcastle drawing 0-0 in their 3 away fixtures so far, would you rule them out for a 4th? So Dubravka could get a start if that's the way that you wanted to go. As I just mentioned, Inman and Dyer could start instead of Stack in this one. Got Dan Burn away to Brighton. I wouldn't be starting him ahead of the 3 that are currently on the pitch for this one. And Joachim Andersen at home to Arsenal. You'd expect DEFCON points, but similar to Dan Burn, them 3 that are starting at home to Wolves. Maybe you could make an argument for maybe Dan Burn or Anderson instead of Senesi, but I'm not too sure on that one. I think Palace, unless they start getting a few more attacking players back into the mix, they're not going to be too attackingly free with regards to point scoring. You can have Mateta, who's looking a bit tired. Ismail Assar might be back by them. You've got Devaney, you've got Kamada, who've also played in the number 10 roles, and Esse, who's pretty much been ejected from the squad after his recent performances. So maybe that last that last defensive spot could be rotated, but personally, I'd stick with the 3 in defence that's starting. It's a really good team, and it will be even good, but even better from game week 8 onwards as well, because that's exactly what we're setting up for the wildcard. Does indeed conclude my wildcard draft for game week 6. It's a bit different. Would I go for it? I think it's got potential, I really do. If you don't want to stick with the crowd, even if you are going for a wild card, I think this draft is brilliant for you. I think you're seeing a lot of other content creators go for the double Arsenal defence. You're going for the basic front 3, which is still in this draft. This isn't a draft that's completely different by any stretch of the imagination, but those little tweaks in the starting 11 and on the bench might be the big difference maker. And I think with the double Arsenal attack, Jadon Anthony in there for good measure, a Sunderland defender, and the double Newcastle defence, that is enough differentials to make the big difference. And if that's what you're looking for, I think this draft will be right up your street. So thank you very much for watching. This isn't Sun Dream Team. Of course, on my channel, I do cover both FPL and Sun Dream Team content. I think going forward, Sun Dream Team content will, of course, be out. I might even get another video out before the Game Week 6 deadline. But for those of you who do enjoy the FPL content, hopefully this video has been for you. Don't forget to hit the thumbs up button as well. Let's hope for 50 thumbs up on this one, 50 like ratings that is. Hit the subscribe button down below if you are enjoying the FPL content on the channel, and leave a comment down below on how your season's going so far. Have you used a chip at all? Has your season started with a little bit of a downer? Are the points not quite there yet? Leave a comment down below and let me know how you're doing. Also, while you're down there in the description, we've got all my socials, we've got X, we've got Instagram, we've got TikTok, we've got all that good stuff. So do go check it out. And that's it for today's video. So thank you very much for watching, and you'll be seeing me in a new one very soon.